Let's talk about the elephant in the room. The single biggest misconception Americans bring to France is assuming the MLS system travels with them, and it doesn't. In the US, you open up one portal, see every listing, check days on the market, and request a viewing, and that data flows. In France, you enter, there's no central database. Listings overlap, vanish, reappear. Agencies protect exclusivity. If you're an American buyer expecting MLS-style transparency, you're setting yourself up for frustration. You can bring your dollars, I guess, but you can't bring your data cultures. You keep hearing that the French property market is cooling. Sales are down 21%, domestic demand is fragile, and yet one of America's largest luxury brokerages has just decided now is the perfect moment to plant its flag here. Douglas Elliman France launched its year with more than 14 offices and 25 agents across Bordeaux, Cannes, Monaco, and Paris, and the Alps are next. So let's ask the obvious question. What do they see that others don't? Because when a US real estate giant crosses the Atlantic during a so-called slowdown, it's not a random expansion. I think it's a signal. Douglas Elliman didn't come for the quick wins, right? They came because the US-France property corridor has finally matured. Last year, Americans bought nearly 1 billion euros worth of French homes, roughly 8 to 10% of the foreign purchases, making them the largest non-European group. That's remarkable given the complexity of buying here. And while transaction volumes dipped, US demand certainly hasn't. It's grown about 5% year on year since 2021, and accelerated since the election. Why? Well, politics, currency, certainty, and lifestyle. The strong dollar has faded. French property feels like a hard asset in uncertain times, and lifestyle mitigation, not speculation, is the real driver here. So when Elliman moves in with 5 to 30 million euro listings, they're not chasing a trend, they're cementing one. Look at where they've opened. Bordeaux, Provence, the Riviera, and soon Paris and the Alps. These are the same corridors where US buyers already dominate viewings. In Provence, American inquiries are up 28% year on year. In the southwest, Occitanie and Gascony, they're up 39%. Even with higher French mortgage rates, 60% of US buyers still pay cash, right? That matters because it insulates this group from the local credit cycles. When French buyers pull back, Americans quietly keep the market moving. Elliman's founders in France, Philippe Curuchet and Frédéric Lillo, both ex-Knight Frank, know this. They're betting that international buyers will soon represent the only growth segment left in high-end French property estate. Really key and strategic in a political year that's coming up. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. The single biggest misconception Americans bring to France, and the one that tips or trips them, even seasoned investors, is assuming the MLS system travels with them, and it doesn't. Look, in the US, you open up one portal, see every listing, check days on the market, and request a viewing, and that data flows. In France, you enter a labyrinth. There's no central database. Listings overlap, vanish, reappear. Agencies protect exclusivity like it's gold dust. So if you're an American buyer expecting MLS-style transparency, you're setting yourself up for frustration. You can bring your dollars, I guess, but you can't bring your data culture, sadly. Exactly why Elliman's arrival matters. They're not changing the French system overnight, but they'll certainly import US expectations about marketing, disclosure, and client service. That pressure alone can shift the market, and I'm really excited to see what they produce as a result. Now, for the agents already operating in France, this is the part you need to hear, I think. Elliman's presence isn't just competition, it's collaboration. American buyers expect high-touch communication, transparent reporting, and branding that feels global grade. They won't tolerate call the office between 2 and 5 p.m. or one photo listing on Le Bon Coin, right? When a US giant enters your market, it resets the benchmark. I think the French Riviera learned this 20 years ago when Sotheby's arrived, but now it's coming for Bordeaux, Provence, and the southwest. If your agency isn't ready to meet those expectations, if you're not communicating in English, clarifying transaction costs up front, and using proper digital staging, you'll feel that gap widen real fast. Because what Douglas Elliman is really importing isn't just capital, it's culture, responsiveness, service consistency, and client-first rhythm that's still rare in France, in my opinion. So what does all this tell us? It tells us that France and America see property through two different lenses. The French see sees it permanence, something to preserve, to steward. Americans see it as freedom, a lever for a life design. When two mindsets meet, interesting things happen. Markets evolve, standards rise, and for anyone paying attention, this is the most interesting moment to be working in French real estate in, I think, a generation. Because yes, prices are correcting. Yes, transaction counts are down, but look past the headlines and you'll see a new kind of demand taking shape. Calmer, cash-based and strategic. The kind of demand global networks like Elliman are built to serve. If you want to stay ahead of that curve, to understand how the US-France corridor is really moving, subscribe to our weekly newsletter, links in the description. We track the data, the deals and the deeper signals shaping life for investment in France. And if you're an agent watching this, consider this your early warning or maybe your early advantage. Bonne chance.